Hey guys, it's Ethan with Terminal.com, and today we've got a really cool video for you. It's about how to add links to your terminals so that you can create clusters, and this is really the foundation of more complex app development. It allows you to create groups of computers that have much higher capacity than just a monolithic or standalone server could handle by itself. I'm going to walk you through it. Those of you who are pretty experienced in using our API, you're probably going to get more from the blog post that we wrote on this, which can be found at Terminal.com on our blog, or blog.terminal.com rather. And I'll show you that right now. The reason being, I'm going to take you through the beginner steps as well, so this is really geared more towards beginners. But you advanced guys can just run on over to the blog right here, and you'll find the snippets you need to kind of get this up and running really fast. For the beginners, we're just going to dive right in. You can see right now I've got one terminal set up. I've just named it web server. It's a standard Ubuntu 14.04 installation, and it's got my SSH credentials on it. Haven't done anything else special to it. I'm just going to use it as kind of a dummy to show you these concepts. Standalone server right here, but let's say we wanted to start scaling our setup, and the first thing that I wanted to add was maybe a server to just handle the database. And again, I'm just going to use a second Ubuntu to kind of display this. The reason I'm using these is because they've already got my SSH credentials on it, and that's important because by default the only way we can really access these for this particular function is via SSH. So I'm going to just name this database server, and I'm going to turn off autopause. It's important to turn off autopause so that all of the nodes on your cluster stay running. And start it up. So as this starts up, I'm going to go grab some more information, and this is going to be a good tip for you beginners. It's certainly, it's good for the advanced guys too, but it just helps to keep things organized. I'm going to come over to my terminal account, and at the same time, you go to settings, and we're going to need your API tokens. So we use a couple of pieces of information throughout the course of this tutorial. For each terminal, we need to know the terminal's unique subdomain as well as its container key. And we also need your user token and your access token. So all of these are alphanumeric identification codes, and they range in length from a couple of characters to dozens of characters, and they're just very difficult to remember, obviously, possibly impossible to remember. And so in order to keep it simple, I just open up a text editor and write the information there to keep everything on hand. So I've navigated to my API keys. I'm going to keep these in the background. Got my text editor open. I'm going to use this to organize information for both the web server and the database server as we go through, and that's just a quick trick to keep things organized. So you can see I have my database server here. I really don't need the IDEs for anything we're going to be doing, so I'm just going to close out of that. But I will open back up to my terminal dashboard just to grab some quick information for this document we started here. So like I said, we need the unique subdomain of both of our terminals. Now, you're probably used to seeing the unique subdomain. Anytime you access your terminal online, you go to a website, and that website has the unique subdomain .terminal.com. So if I wanted to access the database server, I would navigate to Ethan Brooks 1609. You should see that pop up here in a second. .terminal.com. And like the same thing for the web server, it would be ethanbrooks1608.terminal.com. That ethanbrooks1608, that's our unique subdomain, and we want to keep track of those because we're going to use them in our API call. So my web server is 1608, my database server is 1609. I'm just going to come over here and drop those in this document. The next thing we need, now that we have our unique subdomains, is we need the container keys for each of these. So the container key is again, it's a unique identifier, alphanumeric, several digits, I'm not sure how many, but too long to memorize on the fly. And you can get it by using the API, so from inside a console. But because this is really geared towards beginners, I'm going to show you another very easy way to get it, and a way that I think is a little bit faster because it doesn't require retyping commands at all. From the blog post, you'll notice there's a section here on the interactive API. If we click that link, it's going to take us to our API reference, and this is a page where you can actually test calls using your unique user token and access token and the information specific to the terminals that you're interested in manipulating. So this is really cool, and I'll show you how we use this real quick. First thing we do is we come over here and just grab our API tokens. So user token first, access token second. Word to the wise, your access token should stay secret, so if you're doing something like I'm doing and creating a screencast to show the world, make sure you remove it and generate a new one when you're done. The last thing we need, because we're trying to get the container key, we don't have to fill that in, but we do need to put in the subdomain for whichever terminal that we want to generate information for. So in this case, I'm going to do the web server first. Just grab the subdomain here and paste it in. And then you'll see here it's generating a bash command that I could use in console, or I can just click this test API call and it will return the output. So you can see right here I've got my container key, and I can just copy this and paste it back into this document for use later. And this is why I say this is faster, is because all I have to do is just change that to a 9, test it again, and I've got the new container key ready to go. All right, so we've got our terminal set up. We know the subdomain and the container key for each of them. The only thing left to do is to go ahead and plug this information into the API call that's going to generate the link between these two servers. First and foremost, we want to SSH into the terminal that we're adding a connection to. And so what I mean by that is, in this case, we're going to add a connection to the database server. We're going to give the web server access to a specific port on the database server. And that means we're adding a connection to the database server, or a link to the database server. So in this case, we're going to SSH into the database server and then add the link from there. So I'm just going to come over here, start my terminal up, and SSH into that terminal. If you're not familiar with SSH keys, there's a link to a great article that we wrote on them in the article that's referenced earlier in this video. Okay, so you can see I'm in, and I now have control over the command line on the database server. The only thing that's left to do is input the API call and hit enter. Now this is where things can get a little bit tricky, because we need to add a rather long API call, and it has to be modified with our specific information. You could write this out by hand, but I'm just going to copy and paste from the article that we wrote on this because I think it's faster. So I'm going to go down here to the bottom. And there's an example of the call you use to add a link. Now you can see here, this call has quite a few sections that need to be customized for us. We need to add our specific user token, our access token. We need to switch in the container key for the database server, and we need to add the subdomain for the web server. And then this specific, let me check something. This specific example here has 2 links that it creates, so I'll leave this section out and just cap it off with the end there. So I'm going to move this over one piece at a time, and you can feel free to follow along with me if you like, or like I said, you can type this by hand if you're a little bit faster on the command line. So I'm going to grab this first piece right up to the beginning of the user token. Then come on over to my user token and just copy that. Back to the command, right to the beginning of the access token. And remember to get this close parentheses here, or yeah. Grab my access token. Come on back over here. I just want to double check inside this to make sure I'm not copying any crucial information that I shouldn't be copying. So that looks good. Right to the beginning of the container key, just copy that. Then I need to grab my text document, and I need the container key for the server that I'm adding a connection to. Which in this case is the database server. I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to add the connection to port 3306, and that's really just to follow along with the article itself. So I'm going to grab all of this, and then I want to copy the subdomain of the web server, because this is the one that we're providing access to. So I've got up to here. I'm going to just grab the close bracket, and then I'm going to finish it off by just grabbing this last little piece down here to finish our array of connections. All right, so then now that I have this copied in and it's copied in properly, I just go ahead and run it, and it should create the link for our cluster. This is really the tip of the iceberg. Once this works, you really can do whatever you like, and you can add much more complex setups. You can see in the article that we wrote, he deals with 3 servers, all accessing different ports on each other. There's a lot you can do with this. You can get very creative, and you can serve up dynamic apps that can work for much larger audiences. So let's go ahead and run that real quick. Success. Boom. Guys, I hope this was helpful, and get out there, play with it. Let us know what you build. We're looking forward to seeing what you make. Find us on social media. We are at Terminal Cloud, and you can also comment on this video like us, share us, and show us what you build. Until next time, thanks for checking in, and I'll see you later.